For decades, the world believed it understood how power worked. Nations built armies, missiles, and radar systems under one simple assumption: if something entered their airspace, they would see it. Detection meant control. Visibility meant safety. And invisibility simply did not exist. Then the United States did something no one else had managed to do. Without announcing it, without proving it publicly, without asking permission, American aircraft began flying straight through the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. And no one could stop them. Not because they were faster, not because they were stronger, but because for the first time in history, the enemy could not even see them coming. By the time rival nations realized what had happened, the rules of warfare had already changed. Permanently. This was not just a technological breakthrough. It was a moment of silent dominance, and it caught the world completely unprepared. To understand why this moment was so shocking, you have to understand how confident America's rivals were. By the late Cold War, radar networks covered entire continents. Thousands of operators watched glowing screens day and night, trained to believe that no aircraft could ever cross their borders unnoticed. Radar was not just a tool, it was doctrine. It shaped military planning, defense budgets, and strategic confidence. Entire nations trusted that their systems could detect any threat long before it became dangerous. And for decades they were right. Every bomber, every fighter, every reconnaissance aircraft reflected radar waves. Detection led to tracking. Tracking led to interception. This was how air defense worked. And no one seriously believed it could be fundamentally broken, except quietly in the United States. While rivals focused on improving radar strength, range, and resolution, American engineers were thinking in the opposite direction. Instead of asking how to outrun detection, they asked how to erase it entirely. The idea sounded absurd at first. Aircraft were large metal objects. Radar waves did not lie. Physics could not be negotiated. But American scientists noticed something others had overlooked. Radar reflections were not fixed. They could be shaped, redirected, weakened, not eliminated, but reduced so dramatically that an aircraft would appear as nothing more than background noise. It was an idea that required courage, secrecy, and an acceptance of risk. The resulting designs looked strange, even ugly. Sharp angles replaced smooth curves. Stability was sacrificed. Performance was secondary. What mattered was one thing only: invisibility. And while the world laughed at rumors of impossible aircraft, the United States built them anyway. Across the Iron Curtain, intelligence agencies began hearing whispers. Reports described odd aircraft shapes, unusual night flights, and testing activity hidden deep in the Nevada desert. The response was predictable. Engineers scoffed. Analysts dismissed the claims as exaggerated or misunderstood. Some believed it was psychological warfare, an attempt to scare rather than impress. After all, no serious aviation program would sacrifice speed, maneuverability, and elegance for a theoretical radar advantage. They concluded that even if detection was reduced, tracking would still be possible. And tracking was all they needed. The reports were archived, the concern faded. Then the bombs started falling. When American aircraft entered heavily defended airspace during real combat operations, every assumption collapsed at once. Radar systems were online, operators were alert, missile batteries were ready. And yet nothing appeared on the screens. Targets were struck with surgical precision. Air defenses reacted, launched countermeasures, and searched desperately for something to lock onto. But there was nothing to see. At first, commanders blamed equipment failure, then human error, then sabotage. Entire radar stations were inspected, recalibrated, and tested. The results were devastating. The systems were functioning perfectly. The aircraft had been there. They simply could not be detected. For the first time, rival nations faced a terrifying reality. American technology had made their defenses irrelevant. Analysis reports became increasingly blunt. Engineers stopped arguing about malfunctions and began asking a far more dangerous question. What if radar itself had been defeated? Satellite imagery soon confirmed the truth. The strange geometry, the faceted surfaces, the design choices that once seemed impractical now made perfect sense. This was not an aircraft designed to fight, it was an aircraft designed to exist unseen, and that realization carried consequences far beyond a single plane. If one aircraft could pass undetected, then entire fleets could follow. If radar could be bypassed, then decades of strategic planning had been built on a false sense of security. One internal assessment summarized the situation with chilling clarity. The United States was now operating in a domain its rivals could not observe, predict, or counter in time. The response was immediate. Emergency funding was approved. Counter-stealth programs were launched. New radar concepts were proposed with urgency bordering on panic. But technology does not catch up overnight. By the time effective countermeasures were even theoretically possible, the psychological damage was already done. The United States had demonstrated something far more powerful than firepower. It had demonstrated inevitability, not through force, not through threats, but through mastery of the unseen. History often celebrates battles and victories, but some of the most decisive moments happen without explosions, speeches, or applause. They happen quietly, when radar screens stay empty, when defenses fail without warning, and when rivals realize they are no longer competing on equal ground. The world believed it understood power. Then America disappeared from view, and when the truth became impossible to ignore, the balance had already shifted forever.